Welcome to Primetime. Today I'm going to walk you through creating a level for supervisors and adding a supervisor to the software. This will work for TA100PRO or Genesis Pro. The first thing you want to do is figure out what you want the supervisor to be able to do and see. You have the option for them to be able to view the approval editor, see the absences, see the missing punches, edit missing punches if you want, delete punches and things like that. We'll take you through that when we're creating the level so you can see what you can and can't add to them. You have the ability to have them see the status board, people that are out, anybody that's working, anybody at lunch if you're set up for that. Reports, we have the ability to give them access to any of these buckets here. If you don't want them having all of these, maybe you just want a specific, maybe you want them to run a time card, you can click on your time card from the period, select location, click company favorites, put this in the order you want it to appear, and click OK. Disappears out of here, and now it's in here. So if while setting up the supervisor level, we say they can view and run reports in the company favorites, this would be all they have access to. In the employee screen, you'll be able to define whether they can see these tabs or not. Obviously, they'll be able to see the time card, but whether they can add or edit any transactions is again up to you. The schedule tab, they'd be able to see the schedule, but it's up to you whether they can edit or modify the schedule. Transactions, they should be able to see the transactions. This helps to tell what's going on from a missing punch because they can chronologically see each punch that came in and the exact time it came in. So it's easy to figure out if I'm missing a start lunch or an end lunch or an out time. These tabs over here, typically you don't need to give them any data or any viewability. The status, their hire date, the policy they're on, benefits if you have that, messages, these are for the clock, their wages, their badge, any clocks they're assigned to, and the details tab. This is what they would be able to see in the details tab if you decided to give them employee view and access to the details tab. Employee view means they're going to be able to see the employee names, but the details is where they would be able to see the employee information that's specific to that employee. If any of this is put in, their social, their birth date, address, email, any of this information down here if you're using it, and their division group and things like that. And you could give them access to see this without the ability to edit it, depending on how you fill this out. Some people may not even use socials or addresses or anything like that, but just straight name, groups, employee ID. So that's up to you when you determine what access of level you're going to give to your supervisor or managers, however you want to do that. So those are the items here that we're going to be looking at. A supervisor typically doesn't need to poll. They don't need to worry about the auto process. They don't need access to a lot of these things up here. So we have the ability to either give them that access or not give them that access. So we're going to go first to File, Security, and Define Level. This is where we want to define the level of access that they have, what they can and can't do, what they can and can't see. So I've already got a read-only one in here, and this could be applied to anybody, whether they're supervisor, manager, however you want to do it. It's not relegated to a specific role, but it's a type of access basically, and this one being read-only. There will be a supervisor access in your software. This is the highest access you can get. Only admin level people that need these functions should be assigned to a supervisor access. So we've got the read only. And when I look through here, I've got different tabs: file, daily, reports, system setup, and communication. And you see I got file, daily, reports, system setup, and communication up here that I just showed you the different things in. So when we look at file, I'll click edit here. We don't need any of this, or the supervisor doesn't need to do any of these. Daily operations, can they view the approval editor? If you want them to edit punches, that's fine. Sometimes I'll allow edit and add a punch, but I won't let them delete one. Or maybe I'll just let them add if all I want them to do is put in missing punches, but I won't let them edit a punch or delete a punch. That's a little bit extra safeguard for you, that they're not going in and modifying times from an employee's clock in. It doesn't stop the employee from just not clocking in and the supervisor buddy from going in and adding them all, but you would be able to run an audit trail to see if that's happening anyways. So back to the read only, just these items here. The employee details, where it had their number, their address, and everything like that. If you don't want them to see that information, we would just uncheck this. Their schedule, the transaction tab, of course, view only. They don't need access to any of this: status, benefits, messages, wages, or badges. Those were those other tabs that I explained that they really didn't need access to. You may want them to see the status board, who's in, who's out, their last punch. They really don't need the task organizer, benefit accruals, or anything else like that in here. The reports, again, you can choose which bucket of reports to allow them to access. You could put reports in the company favorites that you wanted them to be able to run, and just simply give them access to the company favorites. They don't need any access to setting up the system, divisions, departments, and things like that. You may have a need for them to view maybe the holidays, maybe view what groups are out there, view the department jobs, but not have access to add or edit or delete any of those things. This is up to you on what level you feel that your supervisors need to have. Communication, they don't need to pull the clocks, start the auto process, or configure any of the clocks, so these will all stay as they are. So when you go to add a level, you're simply going to click add down here at the bottom. You're going to give it a code. The code is up to you. Could be numeric, it could be a name. It's just something different from the other codes that are currently in. So I'll just call this manager. Time card edits. It tells me that they're able to edit time cards. So I'm going to file. They don't need anything in here. Daily operations. I want them to be able to view and edit through the approval editor. I want them to be able to view employees, of course. I want them to view, add, and edit punches on the time card. I want them to be able to approve the time card. I want them to be able to view and edit their schedule. I want them to be able to allow them the schedule override. View, add, and edit transactions. They don't need to see any of this information. Maybe I want the manager to be able to see their badge just in case there's issues with the employee. And if they have their own badges to assign to employees, I will give them the ability to add the badge. They might be able to see the status board if you want, but you don't really need anything like this. The global transaction means that I can create a transaction, a clock in, a clock out, a holiday punch, anything like that, and assign that to multiple employees at once. Messages are more for the admin, and that's where you can assign messages to the employees, and then those get sent to the clock. A message example would be their first initial, last name. When they swipe their badge, that message comes up on the clock if you have a clock capable of messaging. So this is what I would be in the daily operations. For the reports, I may give them period, weekly, and daily reports. They don't need exports. They don't need employee lists. They don't need to be able to change the location of the different reports inside of each of these, so I don't even give them that. They don't need to do anything on a system setup, although maybe they're responsible for adding jobs. And I can give them this, and then they can put those in. Communication is polling the clocks. If they don't have a polling key on their software where they're logging in and out at, they're not going to be able to poll anyway. So we don't need to give this. But if they did, or they accessed a machine that had the polling key, I can say yes, they can start. They can change the clock selection, add clocks, and they can set different polling options. They don't need access to the auto process. They don't need access to configure the clocks. So that would be enough for this manager. I click OK, and now I have the time card edits manager. If I want to see it by code first, manager, read only, supervisor. So that's all there is to adding or defining a level. Once I've defined my level, I would go to security and then user maintenance to add a supervisor. I'm going to come down here and click add. For the login, I will just give them their name or something that is easy for them to be able to use to log in. I'm going to click on password, even though it's grayed out, and I'm going to put a password in for them, something like 1234 12345. That way, when you give them their username and password, you don't have to worry about whether they're struggling with capitals or non-capitalized. Supervisor badge. Depending on the clock you have, if you've got fingerprint clocks, then this should be a number, but for other clocks, you're just going to put their name in here. And that way, when you run reports and you're looking at audit trails, it's easy to see who that is rather than trying to look up or cross-reference a number. Their last name, and I recommend that you really put these in caps because it makes it a lot better to see them over here, and you can see where the lowercase is. That can be a pain to look through and try to pick names out if you're looking at that. Test. Down here, this is the level that we just made. Even if you're creating a new supervisor access, which remember I said this is the top level. This is the admin level, if you will. It just comes back from the days where supervisor was the king, and then they kind of switched over the years to admin being the king. But remember, supervisor level allows them to do everything with no restrictions. So you want to make sure you click on this. Even if you're making them supervisor level, we can see it says supervisor level right here, but this is just a window, and this is just happens to be what's under that window. We need to physically come in and click to tell the software that's the one we've chosen. I'm just going to click on manager, start in main menu, or you could have that approval editor pop up to show them they're missing punches straight away, or you can start in any of these types of things. I like the approval editor because it pops up and shows them they're missing punches. Color quality, whatever your choice is here. Gradient background, I usually leave on yes. There is a TA100PRO messenger that'll come up and you could use to message people that are on the software. It's not used very often, but it is there. Email profile. This is going to be, in 99% of cases, the word Outlook. If you've got multiple people logging into machine with their email, then you would have different names for the Outlook depending on how your IT person set it up. Could be their first name, their last name, their login, but it's going to look to my default profile, which is named Outlook, to be able to send emails. So that's what this is for here. I'm finished with this. I click on divisions. Here I can select list, and maybe I only want this person to have access to the employees in this division, but not this one. Most people are only going to have one division. Most people are just going to leave divisions on all. Next is the groups. This is where you're going to come in and limit which group of people your employees can see. So this person is in charge of activities. I've selected the activities group. Only the employees that are assigned to the activities are what this manager, supervisor, whatever you want to call it, are going to be able to see. So I go ahead and click OK. I mean, if you wanted them to see all the employees, you can. You just leave it on all. Range is basically from nursing to activities. So in this instance, it would be all. Most companies have a multitude of groups down here with different employees, and you could pick and choose. I could add both of them over here if I wanted, if I had multiple groups that this person was responsible for. I'm just going to use the activities. I'm going to click OK. I go ahead and close this and file, log in new user, TEST, and remember the password I gave them, 12345, and click OK. Automatically my approval editor comes up and I can see out of my employees who's got a missing punch. I can go to File, Security, and Change Password to change my password so that it's specific to me and it's not just left at 12345. You can see these are grayed out because we didn't give them permissions. When I click on Employee, you can see all of these are grayed out except what we gave them access to see. They can't see the detail. They can see an add badge, but they can't edit or delete. They can add a transaction. They could then edit this transaction. And you'll notice when a supervisor adds or edits a transaction, it's going to be listed right here. The person that did it, the time they did it. Also from their time card, let's see, once they edit something, well, you can't see on this punch until the punch gets closed and they've got to stop time. But there would be a little dot over here under the S that's going to tell you that a supervisor edited or added this transaction or part of the transaction, be it the start or the stop. But it tells you that, you know, this one was edited. You could look at the date, go to the transaction, click on it, and see what, you know, what they did down here. So that's a quick way to do that. But we can see I'm only have access here to the employees in group 400. I'm able to do only the items that I've been allowed to do through that creating and defining the level. I hope this helps, and thank you for choosing Primetime.